everything we do comes down to a matter of what we call diminishing returns. And so it's important that we look at what we do and we ask the question, not whether or not we're giving good quality, are we giving the right level of quality? Because as my example with Tide and Tide Basic would suggest, it is that last little bit of perfection that costs the most money. Here's why. When we do things in business, any field of business, we respond to something called the principle of diminishing returns. Very fundamental economic concept. And what that says is, the first little bit of effort you do brings about a rather significant reward. But if we were to double the amount of effort in the next period, you'll notice we don't get double the output. And in fact, if we continue to increase our effort by an equivalent amount, we get significantly smaller levels of increase as a result. This is the reason for the 80-20 rule. This is the reason why we don't continue advertising ad infinitum, because at some rate, the return on that advertising slows down. This is the reason why R&D spending often hits big snags. You do a little bit of basic R&D, you come up with a significant discovery. You add another couple of $100 million to the R&D budget, you don't come out with another breakthrough product, do you? You come out with a version of the product that gets another letter attached to it because it gives just slightly better performance, but at a significantly higher cost. Well, if we can find a way of reducing what we do to a level of quality that is still appropriate for the customer, still doesn't destroy the quality of what we do, but if we can take that out of giving them the most expensive component, we can have a significant cost reduction, a very small quality reduction, a customer who still gets what they need, and the result, of course, lower prices, better value. We can have it all, but we got to start thinking not just about what we do, but we got to start thinking about everything that goes around it. When a patient comes to you, and the patient comes to you to pick up a script, is that the only thing that is leading them to have that prescription? Or isn't there a whole array of other things that they're going to have to go through before they ever get the prescription written for them? And if you ask yourself that question and you say, well, of course there are, then you understand why large chain drugstores, as we talk, are saying that they want to become diagnostic centers. Why it is they're saying they want to do blood tests. Why it is they're saying that they want to become X-ray labs. Because they feel that if they can get the consumer at that stage of the process, selling them the drug becomes a natural consequence. And if they then ask the question, after they buy the drug, what's required in order for the consumer to get maximum benefit in terms of compliance, in terms of adherence, and so on? Now you can start to understand why they're putting in packaging devices to prepackaged pills into daily doses. If you're a diabetic like me, you've got diabetic pills, you've got Crestor, you've got all kinds of stuff being thrown at. It's like having an extra meal every morning. Well, geez, wouldn't it be nice to get little baggies instead of big bottles, to get little baggies that had them all in it already? For that I'll pay, because that's a convenience that makes my life easier to manage. One final element of this notion of good cost, bad cost has to do with the fact that there are times where the consumer doesn't care about what they're getting as much as how they're getting it. We call this the experience factor. And the notion is that at some point in time, the consumer basically finds themselves saying, I'm incapable of making a rational valuation, so I'll make an emotional one. I will determine whether or not I'm satisfied, not based on my ability to know whether you've dispensed the product the right way or told me the right things, but I'm going to make an evaluation based upon how I feel at the end of my interaction with your business. And I can think of no better demonstration of this than Disneyland. Anybody ever been to Disneyland? Yeah. I took my family to Disneyland. I came back and a colleague of mine saw me in the hallway the next day and he said, so tell me, how was Disneyland? And I said it was unbelievable. The lineups were humongous. You know, I mean, they've got you snaking back and forth so it doesn't look like a long line, but it's a 2-hour lineup. And even with this so-called fast track, you know, it's still a 40-minute wait. In fact, you spend so much time in lineups, you're not going to see more than 2 major rides, 2 major attractions in a given day. And the price is unbelievable, isn't it? $1,500 US for a 3-day pass for a family of 4. And it doesn't stop with the admission. A bottle of water is $4. A powdered egg breakfast is $16. I'm a carnivore. And I would have given my right arm for something green that wasn't fungal. You know, I mean, nachos, corn dogs, hot dogs. Yeah, give me a break. And so my colleague looks at me, he hears me with this litany of comments. He says, wow, I guess you didn't have a very good time. I said, what are you talking about? We're going back next year on the cruise. But you know, you sit there and you say, how can it be? They violate virtually every known metric of good customer service. Long lines, expensive, lousy quality product and service, and yet one of the highest rates of customer satisfaction and repeat business we've ever seen. In fact, Disney has Disney U, where they teach companies how to create the same experience. Very, very simple. When we go to Disneyland, do we go there in search of short lines? Nutritious food? Healthy food? No. Do we go there in the anticipation that it will be anything except expensive? What is the problem we're trying to solve when we go to Disneyland? Kids. Keep the kids happy. Now let me ask you this question. What is the metric? What is the measure that we use to know whether or not our kids are happy? The look on their face. We look for a smile, don't we? Well, you know what? Disney knows that. And so Disney says it to all of their cast, their staff, right? Here's the secret sauce. The kid must smile. Doesn't matter what we do, doesn't matter what you subject them to, the child must be smiling. Right? Want to keep them in line for 2 hours? That's fine. Then you get Tweedledum and Tweedledee circulating through the crowd, signing autographs, and of course respecting the court order not to touch the children. You want Ken to enjoy paying $16 for powdered egg breakfast? Fine. Then give him a picture of his athlete son, 16 years old, in the height of masculinity, testosterone running wild. Give him a picture of his son being kissed by Winnie the Pooh. Because then every time his son brings home a new girlfriend, what's Ken going to do? Whip out the picture, and the big kid will smile. Right? But it's all predicated around them knowing what's that emotion I want the customer to feel. What's the emotion you want your customer to feel? When they do that consult with you, when they talk to you about what they're taking, when you're servicing them at the counter, is it just that you're hi? Is it that you know their name? Are you trying to impress upon them your professionalism, your knowledge? What is that emotion you're trying to create? Because if they don't leave with that emotion, then you can be replaced by an automatic dispensing machine that has all the right messages coming across the screen. Hi, how are you today, etc. And because of the power of computers, in fact, if properly programmed, even a higher level of personalization than we could ever possibly maintain, given our human information capacity, human information processing capabilities. So in a lot of this example, it's really about creating the right ambiance, that right feeling within the customer that says, my God, I'm happy you're around. My goodness, I'm so lucky to be able to do business with you. In those instances, they will not mind paying a premium price.